So welcome to Good with Ben V. Today we have Jinny Jessica Jacinto. She's a friend. She's a professional athlete, contortionist, performer for Cirque du Soleil, and now a TV actor on the new TV series Star Trek: The New Generation, the new season. I believe it's season 4. She's going to tell us all about that. Season 3? Okay, so season 3. I got it. I just got the 3 up. Yeah, so we'll talk about that a little bit later, but thank you, Jinny. Thanks for doing this again. And we really appreciate it. I want to get into the whole Star Trek thing, but honestly, because I know you, I know the story, but I want the audience to kind of know, like, how did this happen? Like, start back when you got discovered, and I think you were discovered by the founder of Cirque du Soleil. Am I correct?
You mean when I first started, like when
When
I
you
was a
first started, right? When you first started,
that's way
back
back.
when you were walking barefoot.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Well, basically, I was a gymnast from like 4 to 10, and kind of too flexible, like too extreme, almost like not enough tonus and strength. So in gymnastics, yes, you need flexibility, but you do need that strength. And I was really missing that strength, that it was almost like a little bit scary. Like my coaches would ask, say, don't do that, don't do that. And I'm also like 5 or 6 and like extremely like bending, but not really with control. So I would often twist my ankles. So I was, trying to be going to my vision was, even if it was from 6 to 10, to go to the Olympics. So it was still very competitive. It was a really well known gymnastics place in Montreal. And at some point, I just was like, this is too much. Like, I'm always twisting my feet. And it was getting not so fun. The competitive, I guess, was to me at that age. I didn't understand exactly what was happening, but something was off. And the day my dad bought our first house, I told my dad, look, we're moving. I want to quit. It took me like at least 4 months to have the courage to tell him, because he was so proud. You know how Latino parents are like right behind their daughter, and he would like miss work to bring me to competitions and travel with me. Like, he was really like the best dad, supportive and believing in me. And so it was hard, like, to decide that. And I, of course, identified that's the only thing I knew in my head what to do is to be a gymnast, right? And so my whole life was around that. So when I quit, was like, oh my God, I discovered like playing outside, discovered TV, because I had no time. It was like school, training for 4 hours, and that was my life for almost 5 years. And there was no other, that's all I knew. So it was fine and it was fun, but at some point it wasn't fine and fun anymore. So I was like a kid. I was like, oh my God, TV, Friends, this is amazing. That lasted 3 months. Got so tired of it. And I was like, Dad, I think I'm going to do gymnastics again, because I didn't know what to do. And I needed to jump and be upside down and be on my hands. Like, I was missing that. And where I moved, there was a new gymnastics place, like not new. For me, it was new. So I joined. And the level was like a third of the level of where I was. But I was just, whatever. It's just going for fun. It wasn't the Olympics in my head. And it was maybe 2 hours of training. It was half the time invested as well. So it was easy. It was fun. And then there was a coach in the Canadian men's team that was starting to teach at the school circus. And he was like, you know what? I've been following you since you're 5. I know you were in gymnastics. You were in really like a well-known club, and now you're trying to figure out things, I guess. So I'm interested, I'm intrigued if you want to come to the school circus and meet other girls that do what you do, which is called contortion. And I'm like, there's a name and there's other people like that do that, because in my head I was just weird.
And how
And I
old
was
are you,
most of the
Jinny?
time 10 and a half. So yeah, so I was just like, I wasn't allowed to do that, and I was more like a weird bendy person, and not knowing what to do, and especially there was no name to it. So just like him telling me the word contortionist was the first time I would hear that, and I was like, oh my God, I gotta tell my dad, So I had a pamphlet from the school circus. I said, Dad, what I do if I could be a contortionist, and there's a school circus and there's other girls. This is what I want to do. So of course, I'm super excited, and I go in this, and I stepped in the door, and it's really like a gym, exactly like a gymnastics place, except there's like trampoline, and there's trapeze, and there's jugglers, and there's still people flipping all over, and there's no feeling of at all of competitive. It's really like just people having fun, and it's like a big playground, I found. And because the school circus had already started, like their session was started, the coach had arranged me to meet the contortion trainer and see if I can get in. And I was like super nervous. I'm like 10 and a half, right? So she's like, hi, I introduced myself, and then she says, okay, let's just show me what you do. And I'm like, show me what you do. I'm like, I'll put my feet here. And she says, okay, extend one leg, extend the other leg, lift one. I was just doing what she was telling me. And then she just, like, it lasted 3 minutes. And she looked at me and says, okay, is there anything you cannot do? And I'm like, does that mean I'm accepted? Am I in the school circuit? Like, I was just like so excited. And then she says, yes, you'll meet 4 other girls tomorrow, and it's all good. So I was like, it changed my life. It changed my world to connect with others, and to be allowed to practice this seems so natural to me. It was a gift. I worked extremely hard on balance and strength, but never on the flexibility. It was just, I was born with it. So yeah, we became a group. We were 4 contortionists for 10 years. But just that there's always a school of circus performance, like a little show for the parents and stuff. And that's what Cirque du Soleil saw us, the owners and whoever the scouts were there. And I was just like 6 months in the school of circus when they saw the 4 of us and says, we want you for our next performance. And of course, I'm 11 at that point, and I'm like, I would go for free. We would all go for free. And like, it was just unimaginable to think, oh my God, we're going to join Cirque du Soleil. And this is way, way back, like in 1989. So there's only one show on the road at this point. And there's about 30 performers. It's nothing huge or anything. It's tiny. It's a family. So they actually,
Yeah, and for the audience, how many shows eventually did Cirque du Soleil grow into, like at its peak? Because people don't understand how that thing just exploded.
honestly,
I think it was more than 30 at a time, right?
yeah, I stopped counting, I think, at 20. So I don't know where like it ended up being, because it just never stopped. So yeah, like I think my employee number is like 35, like something ridiculous. Like now it's probably 1,000. Yeah, yeah. I was in the beginning. So yeah, so yeah, that was, and the Cirque du Soleil, what they did with us, actually, they talked to our parents. They said, look, we're super interested with them. Our new show starts in a year from now. So what we were thinking of doing is actually taking them out of regular school, the 4 girls, providing them a private teacher at where they train, so at the school circus. And then they do school, and then as soon as they finish school, they go to training. But there's no lost time of anything. We're in that spot. And that wasn't done yet. There was no schooling in the school of circus. Like, we were the prototypes. We were the first. Now there's a whole system at the school circus, with school and everything. But so we were the first ones. And so we did that for a year, and we're like, great, and if, of course, there was always like, if one of us, really gives up or doesn't want to go or whatever, it's kind of like, it's a tryout, I guess, for a year for everyone, us, as much for us, and to have a reality of what it is to have a full day of training as well, like really more full. So I thought that was, thinking about it now, I think that's a great idea, because how can you tour right away and not, it's about 8 to 10 shows a week we do touring. Mondays are always off, but 8 to 10, sometimes 11 shows. And Vegas is 12 shows a week, 2 shows a day, 1 day off. So it's, so I'm glad they did that year. And of course, you're a kid. It's still not ever a job in my head. I mean, and it's never a career. It's just
Dream at that point.
Yeah, I'm like, oh my god, I joined the circus. This is
Right.
like,
It's crazy. Just say that. What did you do? I joined the circus. Like,
yeah,
how many
I
people say that?
literally, I ran away with the circus at the age of 13. That's like crazy. Like, and I'm a mom now, so I have three boys, and I'm like, how did you let me go at 13? Like, what were you thinking? Like, it's a big decision. Like, I was literally gone from like 13 to 19, and I would see my parents 4 times a year for a week.
That's
that
amazing.
that 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 was my life. Like that, I mean, I would talk to them every day, and there was no Skype at that time, so my bills were ridiculously expensive. But they were really part of my life. Like every time, any small, oh, I want to buy like I don't know, CDs or anything. Like I was really like, I'm a kid, like so they were right in the reach of a phone. But yeah, but it's not like it's crazy. Like I remember having the Cirque du Soleil had, we have gates all around them, right? Because it's nobody from the outside world. That's how I called it when I was young. Could come in, right? The audience come in when the doors open to see the performance. So actually, it's like a tiny little village in every amazing city or country I go to. So if I'm in New York City, like it's amazing, but I can't just step out, and I'm still like 15, so I can't just leave and go where I want. This is my inner city here, right?
Right.
Right. So it is quite particular, and there's no one like checking what I'm going to eat, when I'm going to eat, and even school. Like there's no teacher teaching me a class. Like I was in English school because I went to English school. The girls are studying in French because they went to French school. So if I'm studying in my books, and if I have a problem or I don't understand, I ask the teacher, but nobody's teaching me. So just that in itself is also like, it takes a lot of responsibility and just focus. So I knew that at the end of the month, I had to be at this page for math for every subject. I knew. But if I wanted, I could do 2 weeks of just math. Like I had the choice and the freedom of how I studied, but at the end of the month, I had to be at a specific place. And all my marks had to be 80% and over, never less. So if I failed the test, like if I had 75, I had to redo it. And when you redo a test, you start off with like -5 points or -10
Sure.
points because it's a second try.
Yeah.
So like that, they force the kids to kind of says it's not an option to not do school. You can't be performing and not to school. So it was like a real way of motivating us and saying it's as important. And if you're 80% through your whole year, there's no way at the final test that you can fail. That's how they calculate it.
Well, at least they were concerned about your education, right? I mean,
Well,
you
yeah,
it
but even
wasn't
if
that way in the past with child performers. They didn't care about their education at all, which was a plus. So how did it feel like the first time at that age that you went out in front of one of those huge audiences? What was that feeling like?
well, at Cirque du Soleil, the first show I did was in Montreal in Old Port. So, and it was May 8th, 1990, and that was my birthday. So
Happy
on my
anniversary and happy
yeah,
birthday in a couple of days. Wow.
yes,
That's a big day.
yeah, it is. It's a big day because I turned 14 on the day of my first performance with Cirque du Soleil. So it was like unforgettable in my head. And I remember like dressing up, like there's always a party, like a premiere party. And I'm 14. So my parents got me this dress. And I look at it now and I was like, oh my God, I was wearing that. I look like a princess. Like I have these pink, like a prom night, and I'm like so proud, and it's like my birthday, and it's my first show, and it's like it's really unimaginable. And also to have my parents there, that the show was in Montreal. The first show was huge because my parents were immigrants, so Latino, so they're from Peru, so of course they want the best for their kid in Canada to make the best of it. And now I'm going to travel the world at the age of 14 with the first performance. So that was pretty crazy.
What an amazing experience. So I know that how many countries eventually in those 10 years did you hit?
I don't know in those 10, but I know lately because my older son did a conference on Mommy the Contortionist, and we counted the countries I've been, and we were able to count 26.
Wow.
So I don't know in the first 10, but it wasn't like in my whole life, I would say for now. It's, yeah.
That's
It was,
amazing. That's
yeah,
amazing.
that's pretty.
Wow. So now fast forward, you go Cirque du Soleil, and then how do you get from being a former circus performer to getting cast on Star Trek, that new series, as a monster? What was the name of the monster, by the way? I was looking for it and I couldn't find the name of the monster.
They just called it Monster.
Ah, that's why.
They
Okay.
literally just called it, yeah. And it's it's more like of a stunt, I would say, because I'm a character, right? I'm behind this mask, and basically they were looking for some bendy person, of my understanding, somebody who was flexible and kind of like, I guess, gross in some ways, like weird. And I was like, oh my god, that's perfect. That I would like. It was like I felt like I was 14 again, and going like, reminding myself that was one of my dreams to like, because we traveled in Hollywood, we traveled with Cirque, and we met all these famous people and actors, and came to see the show. So I was really fascinated by going, one day I'm gonna be in a movie. And like, it was still somewhere in my head of like the kind of dream of especially being like an ugly monster, because contortion is like the way we present it in Cirque du Soleil. It's fluid, it's dance, that's emotional, it's not, it's pain free. I don't have this like face of like, oh my god, this is painful. Not that it is, but it's totally the opposite. So when you're 14, you're like, oh yeah, I totally want to be an ugly monster and like be all crooked and scare people almost like.
Interesting.
So,
The complete opposite of what you always trained for. Wow.
and I love to do what I did, but as a kid, I almost forgot that memory. So when I did get Star Trek and they asked me to do a monster, I was like, oh my god, it was like an old memory coming back. I'm realizing, oh my god, I can still realize this kid dream that I didn't even think it was still there somewhere. So it was a beautiful thing for me to like have that opportunity to just create. And also they weren't, they want somebody who's bendy and it's going to do a monster, but it's very unclear. The scripts are written very last minute, especially for like a character like me. They have an outline, but it's not specific. So it was really fun, and it was to explore it and to discover it and to create it. Luckily it was in Toronto, so it was only like an hour flight. It was very close, so sometimes I would just go for costume fittings or lens, and just go back and forth morning and evening. And being a mom, I was more being a mom and teaching flexibility, and performance is not my first thing all the time anymore about touring as much as when I was younger. So it was really nice to like have 2 months of like just going back and forth. And then I'm like, oh, I'm a mom again. Okay, I'm back.
Right.
That was really, it felt good. Like, it was like, oh, this is nice. Like I'm having fun doing this.
Got
It's
the
not,
best of both worlds.
yeah, it's not asking me to leave for 6 months or do something like I'm used to it. I guess in my memory, it's just, it was perfect. I mean, I was tired because sometimes I'm still a mom, so I'm still getting up at 5 in the morning, no matter what time I came in from the evening before. And yeah, it's different. It's not a circus world. The film world is quite another world, but they're still close. I just still felt that family feeling, like all the actors together, like they've been season after season, and you feel that chemistry,
Right,
and also
right.
that calmness. They have this calmness in their ground, like you can feel they're at home. Like when if you would see me backstage in a circus, you would probably be fascinated about everything and how we do makeup and everything. I'm like, this is home. This just feels like my living room. This is great. Like airports feel like that for me. People sometimes, I feel that I see people stress out and looking for it,
You're
and I'm
comfortable.
like, oh my god, I love airports and airplanes. It's just like there's something in my body that recognizes that that's part of who I like. I've been doing that for so long, so there's this comfort. Yeah, there's this pleasant feeling of it
It's
uncomfortable.
familiar. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
familiar. Yeah. So you mentioned the makeup. How long did that take to put that on? Because people are going to see a video.
3 hours.
3 hours.
Yes.
Wow.
It,
And what do
I've
you do
never
for
done.
those 3 hours besides go crazy?
No, no, you meditate, you chill. No, I actually, I don't like. I'm a kid. Imagine, I really like. I'm so present in the moment. I think because these experiences are kind of different. You know, it's not me put like in Cirque du Soleil. I do my own makeup, and it's almost like a preparation, a mental preparation to do my performance. Now I don't do my makeup. I'm sitting there. People are sticking stuff on me, and it's glued. It's basically an amazing latex face they're putting on me, and on top of that, they have to align everything and glue, and then put makeup and lens. And so it starts really early, like it's somewhere between 4 and 6 in the morning often. So I'm one of the first people there, and I just love to see this monster unfold because I'm not used to it. Like Cirque du Soleil, I know what to expect or what character. I'm like discovering it every time, and also it's also feeding my brain of like, okay, what am I going to do with this? And
That's what I
still,
was going to ask. Are you
yeah.
tuning into that monster? Are you like, oh, okay, this is cool. I can definitely be someone else. I mean, that must have spiked your creativity, right?
Yeah, and I really think it's easier sometimes to be someone else. Like I really like that you don't see my face. Like I was surprised of that. Like it was almost more comfortable to be hidden behind this mask because if I'm nervous or if I'm whatever, if I'm a little tired, it doesn't. They see a monster, right? So and the monster is like so stuck. So if I move my cheek, everything moves. That was fascinating to me too. I never had that. That feeling of like I really felt this creature was part of me. Except he was heavy. Like it was like almost 5 pounds on my head, which changes your whole balance. And
Oh,
so
wow,
that,
that's
yeah.
interesting. So for you as a movement specialist, that extra weight had to make a huge difference.
Yeah. And the costume too, like the costume was another 6 pounds. So both. And I don't rehearse. Unfortunately, we didn't have enough time. It doesn't work that way that you rehearse with your mask. And after you rehearse just before filming, which is a few times, but in my head, that's not where you create. It's done already. You know, you should have. So I rehearsed as much as I could, maybe 2 days before to see the table and to feel the objects around me, but not with the whole thing. So I think that's like it added a little level of like, okay, I need to be in this zone where I can think about my breath just a little more because it's just adding and adding things that I'm unused to. Like, yeah. So the weight was different for sure. On my hands, I also have latex hands, so I don't even have the sensors under my hands, which I'm super used to. Luckily, they were super well made, so it didn't make that much of a difference. I was surprised. That's one of the things that scared me a little bit. And then the lens, it's colored, so I can only have front view. So I lose all my side vision. Just to make
Wow.
things
And
easier.
for the audience that doesn't understand how important your vision is to an athlete, it's everything in terms of sending information to your brain. So for someone who's moving in 360 degrees and you only have a straight line of sight, that must have been challenging.
Yes. So it was just like a lot of things. It was the weight of the hand, the head, the costume, the texture of my hands, and the lens. And then the thing is, it's the first time I'm putting it on. And then the first time we filmed was at the Kingston Penitentiary.
Oh,
So the whole cast was there and it's in the stairs.
spooky.
Yes, spooky. You feel the vibe. It's quite a vibe. And so the first time I put everything, I'm like, okay, I did not practice with all this. I think I know, I have an idea of the outline what I'm going to do, but this adds a whole other level. So I was glad that the stunt coordinator, he was amazing, Chris McGuire. Like, we learned to work together and he helped me out a lot. But I was often like, is it okay? Because I have, like, this is a lot of new things. And he knows, right? He's used to all this and he's used to all these monsters and costumes as well. But he's also never really, like, with a contortionist being like worked in that way, so we learned how to work together. But yeah, and it was just like, it's really, like, really cool, like the big hands of the cameras, the big sticks, like in the movie, like all around you and all angles. And then of course I have to do it, like, I don't know how many times, I would say 40, 50 times, like something ridiculous. I was like, again, again. And I was like, I can do this. I've got it every time, they would say, okay, Jinny, stand by. Are you ready? And I'm like laying on the floor, like melted on the floor, ready to like do this creature. And every time, like, he would say action in my head, even if it was like the 30th or 35th take, I had to convince my brain that it was the first take. I remember doing that at every single take because I had no idea how long it would last. We did have some breaks for sure, but it always, because I'm tired. It's heavy. The lens, I'm sweaty. I don't see enough. I can't hear. Sound is muffled. So I'm supposed to go up when the actor, Doug Jones, says a specific word. At the end of that word, that's my cue, but I can't hear it. So at some point I was like telling, the people, like, I can't hear it. Can there be another visual or somebody say my name? So we had to figure things out. And I didn't know everything until I just
Right then.
do it on the spot. But on the spot, I feel like maybe there was less than 60 people, but it felt about a good big team. So you feel that it's not a rehearsal space. So I'm trying to figure all these things out as quick as I can. And also deal with, okay, get breath in your body, regulate yourself. And then as soon as he says action, this is it. This is take one. And the monster, the creature, was really getting an emotional part in me, which also came to a surprise because my mom had this awful, well, I call it awful, maladie, ALS. Um, so it's basically your body shuts down part by part, not knowing what's next, but your brain is 100% intact. So it's almost you get imprisoned.
Yeah, Lou Gehrig's
So
disease.
it's an awful. Yes, exactly. So every time, he would say stand by and he would say action, I just thought, oh my God, if my mom had this strength, like the strength to stay alive and to until the end, she just didn't want to choose to leave. She just wanted, the universe, God, to decide when was her time. So every time I was like, how much determination, I don't know how she does it, And so I was thinking about that. I think that's what nourished me. And I hated the monster and I guess I put the hatred of what made her sick into this monster. And that made it very accessible and easy for me to access because it was so close to me. It's vivid and it's ugly. And she's in prison and I feel like it's the mask and the sound and everything. So I know it has nothing to do with what she went through, but it did make me connect quickly to a level that was dark or ugly and just indestructible. So no matter how many takes, it's like, I got this. And I know she was there with me and I know she would be extremely proud as well. So I was like, I've got this. This is fun. I belong here. I feel great.
Yeah. Wow, what a beautiful experience, in the end, I bet you look back at it, you go, what an amazing experience, to be able to do that. The question that I have is, how many of the actors were you able to scare?
Well, they're used to monsters. They're used to all that. But upside down, like ugly, like bent, it was cool. It was cool to be with them. They were super nice. Doug Jones, he's often in a character like me, a little prettier because I'm like a burnt Kelpian, and he's always a Kelpian. But in that episode specifically that I was in 2 episodes, episode 11 and 13. He's not a Kelpian. So for him and the whole world that follows Star Trek and always sees Doug Jones as a Kelpian, in this episode, he's a human. So he was looking at me and he was like, I understand, my precious child. I totally, because he's always in that. He's not necessarily maybe bending all the time, but he's wearing this mask and he's this Kelpian all the time.
He felt your pain.
Yes.
He felt your pain.
And they were just, it was beautiful to see. Like they were really appreciating my art and like kind of saying, hang in there. They see that they were kind of saying what we do is easy, but they knew I had to warm up. They knew I had to be upside down. They know that there's going to be so many takes that you can't imagine how many. You can't predict it. So they were awesome. And also, I guess also the tricky thing was food because of the whole mask. I can only drink like a straw. So my option was like green juice with peanut butter.
That sounds awful. Oh my God.
No, but I love shakes. So, and the food actually was really delicious. So I picked out almost at the end or the day before or after, but during there was just liquid.
Yeah, I mean, that's like the whole day in that suit. It takes. And so, it's not like they can take the makeup off.
It was 18-hour days. Sometimes
you must have lost a lot of weight, Jinny. Did you lose a lot of weight?
I did lose some weight.
Wow. So for the start,
yeah.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. I was just going to say there was always prepared days off after filming if we had to shoot again, because that was really one of the things that I insisted, and they know too, and they're really respectful. If they can make it happen, they will. Of course, sometimes it's impossible, but they did do their best for that, because I do need at least 24 hours sometimes to recuperate. So I would obviously book a massage.
Yes, of course. Yeah. And do you think they'll bring back the character, the monster?
This specifically, no, I don't think so. But there's always monsters. That's my hope. They're filming season 4 right now in Toronto. I know that. So I'm still crossing my fingers. There's something will show up. And the experience went well both ways. I know Chris McGuire was super happy. It was like, okay, I got you in mind. I know what you can do now. Like I could see him think. So we'll see. And I mean, if it's not there, there'll be other opportunities. I'm just excited because I can see it. I can see happening. Other funky characters are creating, and it doesn't always necessarily have to be extremely bendy. And I think that's what I love about it too. It's not about a contortion act anymore. Like in Cirque du Soleil, it was a number. It was specific tricks. So it's more about, in my head, the pleasure of having passages and meltdowns, and I'm intrigued of exploring that way more. I don't know, I was imagining an old, super old, almost I don't know, old character, and then just being so uncomfortable and pushing that level a little more. And of course, balancing on my hands is one of the major, I guess, things that I'm good at and I love, and I think I can do that for a really, really long time, luckily.
There's always a need for monsters, Jinny. There'll always be monsters. So I think we're going to see a lot more of you, and I want to thank you because this has been a lot of fun. Where can people find you?
Instagram, Jinny Jacinto. There's soon going to be a website. It's in construction right now. But yeah, pretty much. It's Facebook. It's just my name, Jinny Jessica Jacinto or Jinny Jacinto.
We'll put everything in the show note links, and we'll do this again because, like we said off camera, we want to talk about natural movement and raising kids and all the different things that you've applied to it. I'm really interested in that. But thank you so much. Continued success, and I'm sure everybody will look for you on the TV series.